Are you ready to turn your investments into retirement income? Listen in as Jeremy Keil and his guests reveal ways you can make smarter retirement, investment, and tax planning decisions to achieve your ideal retirement. You will learn more about your money so you can feel better about your money and make better money decisions. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to Retirement Revealed. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and we're here to turn your retirement savings into a consistent income. Although we're not talking so much about retirement today, we're talking with Dale Kooyenga, who has done so many things. Currently, he's a state senator with Wisconsin, but coming to an end of his term, and I ran into Dale at the end of an honor flight. He was the one helping out with the honor flight. I was the one coming back from Orlando. But oh my goodness, I see Dale here helping out with the honor flight. I thought Memorial Day is a big deal, but Veterans Day is 2 days from now. Let's talk about military service, all kinds of things, public service. But thank you, Dale, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is so great. And I mentioned the honor flight. Let's start with that first. Tell me a bit about the honor flight, how you got involved, why you got involved.
Well, embarrassingly enough, the first time I heard of the honor flight, I heard about it from back in the day, and I was at an event downtown, and someone's like, "Hey, you're sitting next to the human skeleton," and I was like, "Okay," I was like, from the honor flight documentary, and I kind of rolled with it. But I went home that night. My family was out of town, and I said, "I got to watch this documentary on the honor flight." So I watched the documentary and I cried like a baby, just cried like a baby. If you have not seen the documentary on Honor Flight, you should watch it. So, it was familiar with the organization through that. Then I remember my son's like, "Hey, I would like to watch that too." Cried like a baby again. So I've always just been a big fan of the Honor Flight. When people politically say, "Oh, where can I donate money?" I've always said the honor flight. So yeah, I said they ever need anybody as a guardian, if they ever had a veteran that doesn't have family or friends to take them, I'd be happy to do that. So they called me up and said they had someone to take, and I was happy to do it. It was an amazing experience I will not forget.
Yeah, and of course it's you got to get there yourself at like 5 a.m., even earlier, and then you're getting back at 10 p.m. And a lot of these veterans are 70, 80, 90 even. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, my guy called him yesterday just to touch base with him, and he was like, "I'm exhausted still."
Yeah, I believe it. This was just about 2 weeks ago. And of course, it turned out that he was the person you were escorting, the veteran. He was on the bus to take me back to my car, to the rental place, and he was just beaming the entire time. And so it was a great day.
We had a great time together.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great. Now, the honor flight, just tell us a little bit more. What is the honor flight? And of course, I will link to that documentary in the show notes so that people can learn more about it. I've got to watch this documentary. But what's the goal of the honor flight?
Yeah, so there's some amazing people that started off the honor flight, but essentially it's a program, a not-for-profit that it started with World War II veterans, and just taking World War II veterans and bringing them to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments, World War II monument and the Lincoln Memorial, all the veterans of the monuments, go to Arlington Cemetery, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, stop by some other places as well. But really just kind of thank you for the service. There's so much to it. They get a mail call at the end where they get a bunch of letters from people thanking them for their service. It's hard to describe, but it's a whole day just focused on them and thanking them for their service. And the World War II veterans, that was great. They really appreciated it. We had one World War II veteran with us when we were on there last month. And then there was a good number of Korean veterans, and then the majority of it was Vietnam veterans. But if you compare the reception that the World War II veterans had when they came home, they had the ticker tape parades and they had pretty girls kissing them, and or maybe pretty boys if they were girls in the service. But they had a whole production, right? And there was a celebration, and they were rewarded for their service, through social capital or whatever it was, right? And the Vietnam veterans had absolutely the opposite. They came home to zero fanfare, doors shoved in their face, a depletion of social capital, a stigma from fighting an unpopular war or conflict, as more correctly called from a diplomatic standpoint. So really, really cool to see these Vietnam veterans get the welcome home that they deserved, that they never got compared to their World War II counterparts. And the Korean War veterans are somewhere in between there. I mean, they weren't ostracized like the Vietnam veterans, but they also didn't have the same clear victory and the win. And it was kind of more of a settle, integrated more into society. So whether it be World War II or Korea or Vietnam, they all deserve a great day of getting out to Washington, D.C. and see what they fought for and feeling like a hero, because they are heroes.
Yeah, and they're not the ones that signed the bills or made the laws or decided that, oh, we're going to go fight in this country, and whether it was a good idea or not. It was the politicians, and yet it's the people that served on the front lines that are kind of bearing the brunt 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, sometimes now with Vietnam and so forth. That some of them, it wasn't their choice. You were drafted in, or it was your choice because you thought this is the right thing to do, and like you said, they were ostracized, and here it is, where they get a hero's welcome finally with the honor flight, and they're honored. It is a hero's welcome. They had the marching bands going.
Oh yeah, the Boy Scouts on marching bands and other veterans. Yeah, it's a whole. It must be cool for you to not know that's going on and walk in.
I had no idea. I walked out, I heard a lot of noise. What's going on at 10 o'clock? Then I realized quickly what was going on, and just like your experience with the documentary, I walked close by and began to cry. I thought, I gotta drive home. I just gotta turn around and leave. My father's a veteran. My brother's a veteran. I mean, so many people in my family are veterans. I tried to be a veteran. I was in ROTC for 3.5 years, hurt my back, couldn't go in. And here I am thinking like, okay, these are people that put their lives on the line. It's just amazing. Yeah. Good. Well, another way you're trying to honor veterans is you started a company called Hero Cards. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's called a social benefit corporation. It's somewhere between a not-for-profit, and we also have an equity portion of it because we wanted veterans to be owners of the company versus another not-for-profit competing with good not-for-profits like Honor Flight. So we actually support a bunch of not-for-profits through the proceeds of the sales. But essentially what we're doing is we are collecting collector cards, similar to what you picture with the format and the feel of a sports card or a Pokemon card. But looking at those cards always drove me nuts when I look at how kids touch them and feel them and like think they're their heroes and like, learn from them. I'm like, if you want real heroes, our real heroes are the individuals that never came home. And a lot of people don't read books. I'm a big reader, but a lot of people don't read books. There's less and less movies out of Hollywood that tell the stories of these individuals. And even if they do, they focus on some bigger names. They don't focus on the everyday guy that, maybe doesn't have as much recognition and notoriety as like the Pat Tillmans of the world. So we just take random service members that died from Revolutionary War till today, and we either have a photo or a painting or some sort of illustration of them on the front with their name. And on the back of the card, it says some basic information about where they served, what they were awarded, how they were killed in action. And then every card has a number, and you could go to herocards.us. And on herocards.us, you can type in the card number and then learn a lot more about the individual. So most of the cards that we're doing now are per the request of the families of the fallen. They ask us to do it. So it's been very well received. And so we're trying to get in schools through donations to put them in schools, or schools to request it. There's a subscription service where you could become a member, and every month your family is going to get a dozen cards that tell a dozen different stories with a nice letter that explains like what we're doing that month, why we're honoring those folks in that month. So come check us out, herocards.us, spread the movement. I think a lot of people are looking for presents and gifts and things for their kids that is not made in China, and also has the sense of teaching their kids somewhere. So as the holiday season approaches, please check out herocards.us and consider that as a gift for someone that you want to share this experience with.
Yeah. So does this come in packs of like 12 then? You buy like a pack or a case, or how's that work out?
Yeah, there's a dozen cards in a pack. We actually are going to have a pack of 13 this spring. And that's because we're working with Folds of Honor.
Okay.
And Folds of Honor asked for a separate pack to benefit them, which we're doing. But the reason that there's an extra card, 13, is because Folds of Honor is about, the folding of the flag. And there's 13 folds to a U.S. flag when you make it that triangular shape. So they asked for everything they do is in 13s. So we said,
Sure.
absolutely, we do 13. It may throw off our weight a little bit for our shipping and
Yeah, right.
logistics, but that's a business issue we'll deal with.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a dozen cars. And what's really cool, I always talk about, when the diversity conversation comes up, I'm always struck by, and there's been a checkered past and it has not been smooth. And there's horrific stories of how people were done wrong. But generally speaking, the military has been further along in diversity efforts and inclusion efforts than the rest of the country. And the military I served in reflects that with a very diverse group of Americans. And the cards reflect that, a group of Americans that are just America and very diverse. So that's a cool aspect of it too, to have your kids look at, the faces of old in the Revolutionary War and the newer faces from Afghanistan and Iraq, and men and women and Black and white and Hispanic and Japanese. We had one of the first Native American women killed in combat. I have a card on her. So it's a really cool, beautiful picture of America.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, and especially mentioning the diversity aspect of the military. Unless you're associated, you don't quite realize. The military is basically a large corporation. It's and because it just mainly, I'm saying that because of the number of people that are part of it, the structure that's there. And you're right, it's way far ahead on diversity than America has been. I grew up. My dad was a military veteran, so I grew up on some military bases, and the schools on the military bases were far more diverse than the schools I've been around that were not associated with the military. So that's thanks for bringing up that aspect. That's an important thing for people to know. And I'm going to say too, because I want to make sure that people are checking out the cards. So we'll have that link in the show notes, the herocards.us. But I'll just say right now, the first 10 people that email us, so it's podcast@keilfp.com, KEILFP.com. First 10 people that email us, I'm going to buy you a set of cards. So we'll ship you a set of cards. And we'll make a $25 donation to the Honor Flight, because this is Veterans Day. We want to get some ideas out to people about what Veterans Day is all about.
Oh, thanks for doing that. That's great news.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do, and let's spread the message there. And of course, I said Veterans Day. Just tell us something. This is something that I don't know if bugs me is the right word, but the difference between Veterans and Memorial Day. Just share with us what that means to you.
Yeah, well, I don't get frustrated. Some people get frustrated when people get confused. So people are well-intentioned, but they kind
they're
of
well-intentioned, right?
Yeah, they kind of mix the two up. I mean, Veterans Day is there because it's actually the anniversary of the end of World War One. So it's to thank people for their service that are living and actually came out of it alive, obviously. So Veterans Day is about thanking the living. The Memorial Day is really about remembering those that made the ultimate sacrifice, right? So in that day, I mean, once again, I'm not sensitive about it. Some people are. I don't think they should be, because it's not personal, but that's a day for all of us Americans to recognize those that have fallen. And although it doesn't detract, maybe it feels like it detracts, that like when you're thanking veterans on that day and you're like, oh, happy Veterans Day, and it's we as veterans, and I think I could speak collectively on this, is we as veterans really want the focus to be on our friends that did not come home, and really save all our words and thoughts and deeds for those guys and girls. And so that's the difference. I think I look back to when I was a civilian. I didn't join the military until I was 25 years old. I almost guarantee I got them confused and, mixed them up. And it's like, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, like it's all military stuff, but they have very different meanings for a reason. And, if you could remember the different portions of it, that's great. And have the right sentiments on those days would be great.
It's Jeremy Keil here, and I know you're listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast because you want to learn more about making great retirement decisions. I've created a free video course for you to do just that. Head over to 5stepretirementplan.com and sign up to receive this video training right in your email inbox. We broke down our 5-step retirement plan into bite-sized videos so you can get started on the retirement, investment, and tax planning you need to create a consistent retirement income. Go to 5stepretirementplan.com, use the number or spell it out. You'll get there either way. 5stepretirementplan.com. Thanks for listening, and now for the rest of the show. Yeah. And hopefully this helped a little bit just to know the differences that are there. And like I said, if you don't know, then your heart's in the right place when you're talking to a veteran or so forth on Memorial Day and things like that. But you mentioned you're a veteran, and you also mentioned you started at 25. What enticed you? What made you want to join the military at 25?
Yeah. Well, I'm one of four. I have a sister and two brothers, but our boys in particular, we were younger. We said, if there's ever a war, we're serving together. So I don't know if it was Saving Private Ryan or Legends of the Fall, whatever movie it was, but at some point we said, if there's a war, we're in this together. And we didn't do it right after 9/11, but I remember my mom called me after 9/11 and said, all three of my boys are going to join. All three of my boys are going to war. I thought that was a little melodramatic, but it was right on. My youngest brother got a parental waiver shortly thereafter, and at 17 years old, went to basic training between his junior and senior year. My brother Dan, that is. And then my other brother Russ was in college, and he called me one day and said, hey, when I'm out of college, I'm going to join the U.S. Army. I'm going to do the X-ray program, which is Special Forces. So he's been Special Forces for 16, 17 years. And he wouldn't want me to say his first name, so I won't say his first name.
That's perfect.
And then I joined about the same time as my other brother. So signed up. I asked KPMG if I could have a leave of absence to go to basic training, and I went to officer candidate school. I went to military intelligence school. Was gone for a year of training, and then was back for a year, just in reserve status, and then was deployed to Iraq for a year. So I've been in now for 17 years. I love it. I will stay till they kick me out, and I'm 43. So if all goes well, I could do another 19 years with the current rules. But it's a complicated formula based on when you get promoted and everything else like that. But I would like to stay in as long as I love putting the uniform on. I love serving. I find it consequential, and it's work some days, and there's portions of it that are definitely service. But net, I feel like I get a lot out of it, and I'm honored to serve. And I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's great that you're all able to have this collective bond. I mean, you already had a bond already in the family.
We did, and what's cool is so my sister, who's not the military type, a lot of awesomeness that she has serving people in the healthcare setting as a nurse practitioner, but her husband has for years been like, yeah, but the timing was never, how it is. Like you get older and like life goes on. Well, with the program I'm currently working on for the U.S. Army is we're trying to build up a group of officers that have civilian expertise. And so if you have a master's degree in one of 18 different areas and you have 48 months experience following that master's degree, you could actually be direct commissioned as a captain or a major. And so my brother-in-law has a PhD in student development at the post-secondary level. I think it's from Auburn, and a couple master's degrees. And I said, hey, would you like to do it? So long story short is my brother-in-law now is also in. So all four of us are serving or have served.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. And this program, it's basically like the Monuments Men movie, right? Or close enough.
Yeah. So it is. If you've seen the Monuments Men movie, that's exactly what it is. Now there's 18 different specialty areas, the cultural heritage, the Monuments Men, which is today the Monuments Men and Women.
Sure.
Man, these people are awesome. I mean, I wish you could. So we were just at the Smithsonian. We were on orders at the Smithsonian with some of these individuals I had a hand in recruiting or help facilitating their getting into the service. And we had international partners there, Netherlands and France and Italy, and really, really, really awesome, cool individuals. But yeah, so if you've seen the movie Monuments Men, it's exactly part of the program. And that's the concept is we've done a very good job post 1970 from moving from an unprofessional, a lot of issues in the 1970s Army, right? And thanks to guys like Milton Friedman and other thought leaders, they said, let's make this a more professional military. Let's not do draft. Let's make it a professional organization. And today we have a very, very effective professional military. And to quantify that is if you look at Russia's casualties in Ukraine right now, they vary, but even by Russians' accounts, they're at par, which is a total lie. But I'm just saying, even with the disinformation, misinformation out of Russia, like their numbers have the same amount of casualties that we had in Iraq and Afghanistan combined over 20 years, right?
Oh my goodness.
And the real numbers sound like they're more like 50, 60, 70,000. And it's just jaw dropping. That's like exponentially more than we had in Iraq, Afghanistan. So bottom line is we have a very effective professional military, but what we have maybe sacrificed in that journey to a professional soldier is losing that citizen soldier that is so critical for that post transition after combat. So if you look at Japan and Germany and Western Europe, a beautiful, and it wasn't clean, there was ups and downs, but generally a beautiful, effective transition into the Western sphere of capitalism and democracy. And like they are our allies, and we need those allies today when we're countering threats like Russia and China, right? Or Iran or North Korea. So what this program is doing is we're identifying people that are at the top talent of their certain professions, and then they could be commissioned and join the Army Reserves. So that's the program I've been working on. It's been very, very successful. It's been tons of work, but that has really consumed me over the last 3 years.
Yeah, well, that's a great project, and of course, you're talking about the citizen soldier part of it, and because that was a definition of you. You were at KPMG doing accounting work. They joined the military, and now you're even doing public service as an elected official. Although your term's coming to an end, what caused you to go into become an elected official?
Yeah, no, I ran for office the first 12 years ago. I was on the back end of my deployment to Iraq and came back and served in Iraq with a gentleman named Mark Gundrum, who was state rep. And I said, what do you do? And how do you do that? And really wanted to serve in that capacity. And so I served. And this was a time when Wisconsin's finances were in a tough shape. This was 2010. We had a lot of what I call actually accounting fraud, huge gap deficits, $3 billion. We have now completely eliminated Wisconsin's gap deficit. I know that's like a geek thing, but this is kind of a geeky show a little bit, right?
Right. And clearly we need an accountant for the job.
Yeah. So anyway, so we got rid of the gap deficit. So anyways, that's what motivated me to run. That was 12 years ago. Things changed a lot, and I think it's public service. I don't believe in career politicians. So after 12 years, I did my state service, continued to do my military service. So going back to the private sector.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's just so great. What surprised you the most about being an elected official, being in public service that way?
It's always a different challenge. I didn't really have many expectations going into it, but I guess there's a lot more time spent people campaigning and doing that as opposed to like policy work. And I like the policy. I'm not a big fan of the politics. I always saw the politics as the means to get to the policy. So I guess I'm a little surprised that a lot of elected officials are just purely like the shirt and skins game of Republican versus Democrat. And I never really enjoyed that portion of it. I enjoyed more the rolling up the sleeves, doing the policy, getting consensus and getting things done for a broad range of people. So that surprised me. But overall, it's a legislative body. So you have people from all over the state with all different opinions, and some you really, really like, and some you're like, I won't miss them at all.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more that I'll miss than I won't miss. So
yeah. Well, I wish you the best in the private sector. I imagine you've got your hands on a lot of different things. So I think you'll find the right landing spot, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's fun to just talk to people and see what's out there. And so come January, we'll move into and transition to a new career, and looking forward to those challenges.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I've got one more question for you, Dale. But before we get to that, just tell us, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn is one way. And then my state office, you just Google my name, Dale Kooyenga, Kooyenga. It's going to get you to the state Senate site. It really depends what you want to talk about. You want to talk about military stuff, probably LinkedIn. You want to talk about state policy stuff, probably my state Senate office. But I'm pretty forgiving. If you reach out, we'll direct you to the right email account, so it's all in the legal up and up.
Yeah,
with the right hat for whatever the conversation may be.
Yep, definitely perfect. We'll link to that, LinkedIn, the state Senate office for you there. Of course, herocards.us, might as well put that in there too. And if you're looking to learn more about the work we do at Keil Financial Partners, just check out retirement-revealed.com. That's how you can find us. All right, Dale, we've got the final question. I'd love for you to tell us something about yourself that few people know about. And remember that we've got a clean rated podcast.
Oh, I would not have anything that would be X-rated.
I believe it.
So that works out. I play the trumpet, actually. So I'm a trumpet player. I have played at veterans' funerals, taps. I play in church. Well, I haven't played it recently. During COVID, my son and I went outside and played some tunes for the neighborhood. So that's probably something people know about. I'm a big fan of music, and I think music is a big part of who we are. And particularly as a Christian, I think it's a great way to worship. So I play the trumpet. So that's a little fact that most people don't know about Dale Kooyenga.
That's it. I've seen you around the Milwaukee and state scene for years. I did not know that. So thanks
There
for
you go.
sharing.
There you go.
Awesome. Good. Well, Dale, thanks for coming on, sharing your story, telling us a bit about Veterans Day, Memorial Day, the Honor Flight, HeroCards.us. I can tell you Happy Veterans Day. That's coming up in a couple of days here. So that's great. Thanks for
Happy
serving.
Veterans Day to your brother and your dad.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. There's so many people in our family that served. And of course, I grew up in Maryland. I had ROTC classmates that are serving still today. And growing up in Maryland near Annapolis, I've got a bunch of Naval Academy friends. So I can say to you, beat Navy.
Yeah, I gotta go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, beat Navy for sure. Good.
I just got a sweatshirt in the mail the other day. Go Army, beat Navy.
I love it. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
So am I allowed to ask you one question?
Let's go for it. Why not?
Yeah. So what brought you from out east to Milwaukee area?
Thanks. Yeah. My dad's from Wisconsin. He was in the military. So I grew up half in Maryland, half in Germany. And then back in 2002, I thought I was going to be commissioned as an officer in ROTC, but I hurt my back. I couldn't do that. So all of a sudden, as a 21-year-old, I've got to find a new career. And, I'm a bright-eyed 21-year-old getting a little bit into politics. And Ed Thompson, who's a name I think you might know, Dale, Ed Thompson was running for governor in Wisconsin. I had a friend going out to work on his campaign. He pulls out a map because it's 2002. Pulls out a map. He's trying to figure out, like, where's Whitewater or something like that. I said, I drive around Wisconsin.
Which is probably why he didn't win.
That's right. Yeah. So I said, hey, I'll go drive out with you because I know 94. I know all these roads. I know Highway 60. I can show you some of the Wisconsin roads. So I go out with him for a couple of weeks to work on the Ed Thompson campaign. And of course, I have family out here. So I stayed. And next thing I know, I have a job in the financial industry and meet my wife. Then the rest is history.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Jeremy, for having me. And thanks for covering all the things we talked about. And please stay in touch.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Thanks, Dale, for coming out. And thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you will feel better about your money and you will make better money decisions.
Thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. Click on the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit retirement-revealed.com to learn more. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Keil Financial Partners. Keil Financial Partners does not provide legal, accounting, or tax advice. Consult your attorney or tax professional. Representatives have general knowledge of the Social Security tenets. For complete details on your situation, contact the Social Security Administration. Keil Financial Partners is a part of the Thrivent Advisor Network, a registered investment advisor. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.